Hi guys, well it looks like I won't be doing an international marathon in 2024. Yes, I missed out in the Berlin Marathon lottery draw. Did you get in? Did you miss out? Let me know down in the comments. It's disappointing, but I'll keep entering these lottery draws in the major marathons and maybe one day I'll get lucky. Now the topic of this video, running is booming in Australia. Look, it's no secret, running in 2023 just seems to have exploded here in this country, especially over the marathon distances. Marathons that I went to this year, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, Cairns, Melbourne, all sold out. We had Sydney with 17,000 entries this year as they continue their push to be included as one of the world marathon majors. And it's not just the marathons, even the half marathon and the 5 and 10Ks are all selling out at these festivals. And it doesn't show any signs of slowing down. The Melbourne Marathon for 2024 opened recently. It sold out in 3 days. Already they've launched a wait list for that event, and that's not held until October 2024. It's just amazing. It sold out this year, 9,500 entries. I'm not sure if they increased it for 2024, but to sell out within 3 days is just remarkable. And what's caused this running boom here in Australia? I guess it's like all over the world. During COVID, when we were all in lockdown, a lot of people turned to exercise, and running was probably one of the easiest things to get into. And I guess people just found it a way to get outside, because during those lockdown periods, we were still able to exercise. So people took up running during the COVID pandemic, and it's just continued. And now I guess it's been a progression. People who've started running back in 2020, 2021, they've continued their running, and they're now at a stage where they're doing marathons, and we're seeing it with these events sell out. And it's not just the pandemic that has caused such an explosion of running here in Australia. Park run just seems to go from strength to strength here in this country. If I have a look here, I did write some notes. Just last weekend, for example, we had 461 park run events here in Australia, 55,000 participants, and of those 55,000 participants there was 2,000 first timers. So if you can imagine, we're getting 2,000 first timers each week to park run. Running is just becoming more and more popular in this country. If Melbourne sells out in 3 days, Gold Coast is going to sell out really quickly. Sydney will stay open because it's now a standalone event. This year it was held as part of a festival with half marathon and 10K and shorter distances. Next year, 2024, it's a standalone event, and I think that's a great move on the part of the organisers. Sydney has only got one more year to pass the clause to be accepted as a world marathon major. They passed their first test in September this year, and if they pass next year, then it looks like they're going to be included. I would think that Sydney next year will get 20,000 plus entries. It is the Abbott World Marathon Majors Age Championships for 2024, so that's going to bring a lot of people to Australia. Gold Coast Marathon entries are open. They've been open for a few days. Hasn't sold out yet, but I do expect that that event will sell out really quickly. Cairns and Sunshine Coast that I went to this year, pretty sure that they'll be just as popular next year. Cairns is a bit of a getaway marathon, middle of the year, winter, in the tropics, and it's well run by the people from Atlas Events. Sunshine Coast just is getting bigger and bigger every year. Pretty sure at some stage they may have to follow the lead of the Gold Coast and go to a 2-day festival. Gold Coast now is a 2-day festival, and I think it really has made the Gold Coast a much more popular event, having the half marathon, and I think it's the 5K on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday having the 10K and the marathon. Melbourne is probably going to have to look at that at some stage as well, if they're selling out their events so quickly. It really just means now that if you are thinking about doing a marathon at any stage, especially the big ones here in Australia, and Melbourne, Sydney, Gold Coast are probably our 3 biggest. I guess the message that I'm trying to get across here, guys, is that if you are planning to do events in the future in 2024, don't procrastinate, because if you do, you're likely to miss out. For me, the only event that I have entered for 2024 at this stage is the Melbourne Half Marathon. I do plan to do other events, but I did want to get in early for the Half Marathon there in Melbourne because it did sell out. I think a lot of the events at Melbourne sold out in 2023. I love the Melbourne Marathon Festival. finishing in the MCG, one of the great stadiums in the world, is a huge buzz. And just while I'm still talking about marathons and that, a huge weekend of marathon running for Australia. At the Valencia Marathon, we had 4 Australian women all run inside the Olympic Games qualifying time of 2:26:50. Jen Gregson, Izzy Bat-Doyle, Eloise Wellings and Lisa Waitman all ran inside that qualifying time. So that means now we have 5 Australian women who have met that qualifying time. Last year at Valencia, Sinead Diver ran 2:21. Marathon running is looking really strong for the women, and the selectors are going to have a tough time picking 3 runners to represent the country at the Paris Games in 2024. And in Fukuoka last weekend as well, Brett Robinson, remember he ran that Australian record of 2:07:31 there last year in Japan. He went back again this year, 2:08:31, I think it was. I'll put it up here on screen if I'm wrong. His second fastest time, and he is at this stage our only men's marathon runner who has met the qualifying time for the Olympic Games at 2:08:10, and that of course was run at Fukuoka last year. So marathon running in Australia, from the elites right through to the everyday runner, is just so strong at the moment. And it's just not in Australia, it's throughout the world. Look at some of the size of the fields that have raced recently, and a lot of the international marathons now are at capacity and are selling out really quickly. Like Valencia is now one of the go-to marathons. I think last weekend there was the CIM in California, America. Marathon running has just gone to a new level. And I, for one, doubted that we would see a sub 2-hour marathon for a number of years, but it now seems like we are going to see one sooner rather than later. Kelvin Kiptum from Kenya, 2 hours 35 seconds at Chicago there recently, and then Valencia last weekend we had the Ethiopian Sise Lema running 2:01:48. We've got Eliud Kipchoge in there still churning out fast marathons. What about Bekele last week? A new world record for the Masters, 40 years plus, 2:04 and change. It's just remarkable just how fast the elites are running the marathon now. And will 2024 be the year that we see somebody run a sub 2-hour marathon in a race? Now I know Kipchoge ran that controlled 1:59:41, was it, as part of that Ineos project there in, I can't remember where it was now, was it Vienna? I think it was. But a sub 2-hour marathon in a race, will it happen in 2024? I'm going to say no, because I think the focus of 2024 is going to be on the Olympic Games, which I think is July, August. So yeah, it's some interesting times in the marathon. I believe we're going to see a sub 2-hour marathon really soon. Not in 2024 for me, but 2025 I'm going to say they're going to give it a red hot crack, because we're now starting to see more and more runners are getting closer and closer to that time, which means that there's going to be more and more runners sticking around at the back end of the marathon. Whether they can go with Kelvin Kiptum, whose closing speed in a marathon is just next level, remains to be seen. All right, I've rabbited it on long enough here on this video, guys. Thanks very much for getting to this point in the video. Really do appreciate it. Make sure you do drop a comment on the video down below. And yeah, that's it. Wherever you are, run well, run safe, be kind to each other, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Hey, Reed.